Everybody, welcome again to another episode of Sales Chatter. Today is all about intention. How do we set intentions for every interaction, and how does intention drive results faster?
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Hold on. Damon's jumped in on this.
Hold on, it's official. No. There's a tie though. It's 9 on my end at least. It shows 9:01:23 for Daman and for Jeff. Lisa was 1 second late. Lisa, they got you again.
Jeff says, "Did I win?" Jeff says, "Wants to know if he won."
Yeah, it's time. Sorry.
You know, it's funny. You have 9:28.
Morning, y'all. Thank you,
9:38.
guys.
I've got Daman and Jeff as a tie at 9:38 here. That's interesting how it comes through a little bit later. Maybe because I'm in the Dominican, it's on crazy. Dominican time over here, and it's on U.S. North American time over there. You know, the Caribbean times always takes a little longer, right?
It's always 5:30, isn't it, or 5 o'clock or something?
Well, it's you know what I've often said in any kind of business function, if somebody says, "Hey, can I get 5 minutes?" You're like, "Damn, there goes 15, 20 minutes of my time." If anyone says, "Can I get 10 minutes?" It's like at least a good solid 30 to 45 minutes are gone. In Caribbean time, if somebody says, "Can I get 10 minutes?" Like wipe out the whole morning. You're good. You just got to take, you know. And I remember my uncle my buddy's dad says he just got his citizenship to Mexico. And I was talking with him over the holidays. He was back in Canada visiting his son and stuff. And he's like, "Oh no," he goes, like, when somebody says, "Okay, I'll be there in the morning," he goes, "I know it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon." He goes, and it takes forever to get used to, because in North America, we're like, go. We're like, you know, we're down this highway and everything's going by so fast. It's like, yes, okay, you know, even grocery shopping. Like I actually play a game with myself every weekend when I go grocery shop. How fast can I get out of the grocery store? Because to me, it's it's not useless because we need food to sustain ourselves, but there's so much more I could be doing besides grocery shopping. And he's like, "Oh no, dude, when you're in kind of any of these southern islands and stuff," he goes, "it is like you have to be patient." He goes, "Or else you'll drive yourself nuts." So
yes,
yeah. We got all sorts of smiley faces going on.
Yeah, all sorts of fun today.
We need to dive into this because I got to get going exactly at 9, and I can't believe I'm going to say this live, but I have a hard stop at 9:30. So Joey, intention. Yes. And here's the thing about intention, right? I think Central Americans as well, James says, yes, absolutely. Everything's so chill. You know, I don't think we as high performers or as people in sales, as people in general, we don't put enough attention to intention. And when we set intentions for everything we do, every interaction, every cold call, every presentation, even as much as for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to send emails and reply to emails. My intention is to, you know, be the best I could be at this reply and so on and so forth. It's the intention side of things, I think, is missed in our society. I really do. I think it's missed in the busyness of our day-to-day lives. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something we really need to. And Joey, off air, Joey was just sharing a really cool story about intention. And Joey, I'd love for you to share that story because I think it's connected to all of us, and we've all been in that position. But I don't think many of us stop to realize what it was that kind of happened in the process in which it went. So can you share that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And like, man, it's great being here. Even just the 30 seconds or 40 seconds before we went live here talking to you guys. This is awesome to be here today. You know, I set an intention. I did a Facebook Live. I do it on different things all the time. And I did one last Monday on intentions, on setting intentions. And I set intentions. And one of my intentions is I have a 2015 Ram truck. I absolutely love my truck. And for 7 weeks, it's been in the shop waiting to get fixed. The pinion bearing in the back went on it, and trying to get parts and doing this and doing that and everything. So I just set this intention, and I said, my truck is going to get fixed. The parts are going to come in. And I just laid that intention. I mean, it could be really simple terms, you know, and I get to drive it again. I can't wait to go for a night ride down the dirt roads and things like that with it and stuff, you know. And the guy called me yesterday, and I'm picking my truck up today, and it's all done. Now that sounds great like that, right? But before I set that intention, for weeks before I set that intention, I was going nuts. I was stopping by there every day. I was trying to call other dealerships and other places to get parts, and I was doing all the things that we are conditioned to do to make life happen. And that's what the other side is. And I was going. I didn't get to tell you guys this, but I was this close to signing the line on buying a new car, just so I had some, so I had a vehicle while this is happening and stuff. Now today, yesterday the guy would have called me, said, "Come pick your truck up tomorrow. It's all done. Everything's great with it and stuff." And now I'd had another new car that I don't really need, my Jeep, my motorcycle, and my truck. And so it's like that that go 150 miles an hour puts us in the mode of making decisions that aren't really on our best behalf, but because we're trying to achieve something, it sets us up for that. And it's funny, Dan, because you talked about getting yours a week and a half before you went on vacation, and I have some travel coming up.
No, 4 days.
Okay. Oh, wow. And I have a 1978 CJ5 Golden Eagle Jeep, and it's all original throughout the whole thing, and I love it. But it's not something I can drive for 3 days at a time, to go traveling and do the calls I do, stuff like that and everything. So it was like coming down to the wire. And again, making things happen. So often we jump in and we make decisions to try and manufacture what we think we need to get to, and then once it happens, it's like that now what am I going to do? It puts us in a deeper bind somewhere else. When I take that time and I just align, it does multiple things. When I get in that place and I go, man, I just want, my truck is going to be fixed. It's going to be repaired. I'm going to get to drive it. And I can picture myself driving it, things like that and stuff again. I can let an easier pathway show up for me to show me how to do it. That's the place. And this is where I specialize. And I'll tell you guys, it's so funny because I have 28 years in corporate America as a vice president of sales, helping organizations go from bankruptcy back to back into profitability. I have multiple business I've grown, but I have hundreds of clients where I've helped them grow their business and do so easier without all the go 150 miles an hour, massive actions and all that. And this is one of the areas with it is stopping before I step into it, before I do that massive to-do list and all that stuff and everything, is to stop for a moment and get alignment to what it is I really want. Then all of a sudden things can show up out of the blue. I overhear a conversation or somebody shows up, a phone call that you were talking about, one of those phone calls. I do 10-minute phone calls now with people and they're still 30 minutes. So going back to what you were saying, Dan, but it's getting that alignment of what I really want. That's what opens up that pathway for things to come about easier with less effort on our part. And my whole specialty, anybody I work with, is helping them to achieve more with less effort so they can have more freedom of their time, more time like with what you're talking about, where things can be laid back. I can fish, I can hike, to enjoy the things that people want to truly enjoy in their life.
But even at that point though, Joey, you made a great point there. And even if you want to fish, you want to go hike, there's an intention that is set with that as well. You're not just going to walk around aimlessly. The intention might be to get to the top of the mountain. The intention might be to, obviously, if you're fishing and if Hayden's on today, he'll definitely share with you that the intention is always to catch a bigger fish than you caught last time, or the biggest fish you're ever going to catch, right? And in sales, that intention is what keeps you on the highway, or you start getting off at every exit, and at the end of the call or towards the end of the call, you're like, did I even get accomplished what I wanted to get accomplished here, right? And I could tell you out of personal experience, when I started setting intentions, and I first learned about the true essence of intentions from Brendan Burchard, back when he wrote his book called The Charge. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like, even when you sit down to write an email, what is my intention and the message that I want to portray with this email? Yeah. And it became more and more apparent as I started to grow my business more and more, where you have to operate with intention with every interaction, or else you tend to, for lack of a better term, blow time, right? And it's kind of evaporates, and you're like, oh my gosh, I had and especially in today's day and age. So if we go back to the basics, today's day and age, to get a prospect on the phone is like gold. Yeah. And when you do, know your intentions, know what you're looking for, know the questions you want, know everything to get there faster. Because if they don't, like you said it a couple of minutes ago, which relates back to client profile, if you guys don't align, if there's no alignment, get off the phone as quick as possible, respect their time as well, because they have intentions they have set for today to get done as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that difference in that intention, you know, I have to tell you this though, Dan, is when I go out fishing, my intention is to connect. That's where I connect with God and connect spiritually and stuff like that. Whether I catch fish or not doesn't matter. The looking at the shorelines and the bluffs and the water moving and everything, that right there fills, you know, but it is setting that. But I'll tell you, exactly, DJ. Early on in my career, I built very successful sales territories. And like, I was really good at what I did, even though I didn't like doing what I did. You know, I was really good at it and stuff. But I'll tell you guys, man, my wife and I back in the day, we're divorced now, but when we were married, we had 5 pregnancies in order for my son to be born. And we'd have, you know, these babies born at 24, 25 weeks. And I don't want to get into all that and everything, but just to kind of tell you how precious my son is to me. And on his first birthday, after all this, I was in Indiana trying to build a territory rather than Detroit, where we lived outside of Detroit. And man, that killed me that whole day. But all of this stuff that we're talking about, intentions, all of this stuff comes to that underlying conditioning within us. When we shift that, that's what puts us in a place where we can start looking at intentions and they don't seem like a waste of time. When we can start aligning with what we want and such. And I'll tell you, building territories, even doing, like, I was successful at building them, but I killed myself building territories. And there was so much more available that I missed out on, and because of going that 150 miles an hour when I started learning and truly implementing this stuff, which has become the SMT, or subconscious mindset training method, 12-step framework that I developed. Learning the process of that, all of a sudden I could start building bigger territories and doing it with less effort on my part. And that's really the carrot right there, is being able to achieve more with less effort. And it's so awesome to get to see people do that, see people that come to me and they say, oh, I'm in the 5 a.m. club. I get up at, 5 o'clock and I do this. And by 9 a.m., I've done more than most people do all day. And I go, that's great. I get up at 6:30, sometimes 7. I accomplish everything I need to accomplish every single day.
But I think that's kind of a lot of what is the programming of North American business.
Yes.
Is go, go, go. It's I mean, listen, there's got to be massive action taken on anything, or else you don't get anywhere, whether we set intentions or not. You have to take action on the intention you set. But it's like this North American perspective. I remember my wife and I were watching, I think it was Where to Invade Next, and Michael Moore, a documentary he did. And they were going to he was going to all different countries and kind of pulling the best piece of every country out. And if anyone's interested in really seeing how the North American world is like, go, 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 don't stop. I mean, listen, I couldn't even fathom how many people have ruined marriages, families, and everything based on because they work consistently and just, that's all it was. Been guilty of overworking many, many, many times. But it's that, I think it's more of a North American thing than most people, and it drives people into the ground. I mean, you look at the burnout rate in North America; it's insane. Yeah. And I think this is, COVID has really taught us this as well. Is what's most important in people's lives?
It's literally the microwave society we created today, where we want stuff instantly, and we want stuff instantly that we're so impatient with everything. But I think obviously intentions are crucial, but I think intentions to me are just like expectations when you have employees, or you're going into a meeting, or anybody you're working with. And if we don't have clarity, find true clarity. So slow down, Joey. I think you nailed it. You gotta, we want to, and when things started to get a little bit easier for me, I guess the game slowing down, like the pros like to say, is when I would reading Trevor Mohead's book, It Takes What It Takes, and neutral thinking, and just slowing down. Once I felt that, because we do, guys, when you are in tune with what you're feeling, Joey, tell me if you agree with this, and Dan, but when you're in tune with what you feel inside so much, when you feel that that race, like, oh shit, I got it. Oh my God, I'm getting behind. And if you just slow down.
Yeah.
And think, because again, nothing you can rush to do at that minute is going to fix if you weren't prepared. So having the clarity of your expectations and your intention is the key to me, I think.
But I also think there's a part of it, DJ, that and I'm sure you both agree, you almost need to go through that trying to push things through and seeing how, it's like when Bob Berg was on. Bob Berg said we help pull our customers through the sales cycle. He goes, if your customer is a rope, he goes, you ever tried to push a rope? It just folds and bends and curls. He goes, but when you pull a rope, it's so much smoother. And I think in full transparency, I think we need to go through it, because I think it's like a lot of things. Like if we look at the personal development side of our life, right? And it's great to say, okay, well, you gotta, you manifest this and you manifest that, and the power of intention, and all these other great things that are realities in our spiritual world. Esther and Jerry Hicks, when they wrote "Ask and It Shall Be Given," that's reality. Wayne Dyer talked about it, but I also think that you have to live it. And there has to be a part in your life where you've tried to push things, like even the sale. We talked about this, I think it was last week, DJ, where we were talking about, moving through your sales sequence. And the next logical step when you fulfill the why is to do business together. But if you're in that third home base and you try and steal all the time, you might make it 1 out of every 10 times, but you're not going to make it for 9 times. And that, that piece there, I think is part of the essence of us as individuals growing and developing and becoming more aware or more in tune with what it is we're doing and how our actions create an opposite reaction.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If you haven't.
No, everything you guys are talking about is perfect. And it is. It's that intention. It's like one of the analogies I use is like the fly on the window pane. Right. And they're going harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And that's what we do. I talk to so many entrepreneurs and business owners and real estate agents who want to be successful at what they do. They want to have freedom. They want to have the finances and all that stuff. But they're trying so hard to make it happen. Over time, what happens, just like that fly ends up dead on the windowsill of exhaustion, that's what happens to so many people's goals, desires, and dreams for their life. And I do a workshop and I show that, and I show the fly and I talk about it and stuff. Later on, I pull that back up. But I circle the bottom where there's like a 2-inch gap where the window's open. So if that fly would slow down, it would see the opportunity to go out to get out to freedom. And it's the same thing in our lives. Have you ever
read Usquared, Joey?
I love that.
Yeah. Yes, many. I give it to my clients. Yeah.
Yeah. So Usquared is actually the perfect analogy. That was actually written 10 minutes from my house at the Millcroft Inn.
He wrote
it 10 minutes.
No kidding.
Yeah. But what he says in there is, he says,
awesome.
I'm sitting here. Yeah, it's a great book. And for all of you that have never read it, you've got to read. I mean, it's literally, I think, like 30 pages. It is incredible. Where he says, there's a fly, as I sit here writing, there's a fly banging against the window, thinking the next time is going to be the time. And not 10 feet away, there's a door 50 times the size of the window to total freedom. Yes. And that's powerful. That is super powerful.
That is so powerful.
How many times do we as salespeople have to turn around and say, maybe we go this way? This is
how many times are you going after that one big customer that you think, oh, this is going to be my big payday, and you're letting the stuff go around behind you, just dropping
and killing yourself
because you're going after that one big payday.
And killing yourself trying to make it happen. And that's really the core of this stuff is it's the intentions, things like that. A lot of CEOs that I've worked with in the past, when you start talking intentions, they look like you're, a flower child and stuff like that and everything. So I say, okay, don't call it intention. What is it that you want this to produce? You talked about going out for the sales lead and things like that. After I understood this, I'd pull up in the parking lot for a sales call and I'd think, man, I'm excited about walking out of here with something to quote. That was my win, to walk out of there with a, request for quote. And then it was submitting the quote and getting to deliver it. And just like, I really want this to connect with this person. And then it was, I want to get awarded and things like that. And I'll tell you guys, when I talk about things like this happening, when I'm pushing, anytime I've done that to try and get awarded a program, I wouldn't get awarded that program. When I got into that place of just setting that belief in that and that intention and then going about whatever was next to do, all of a sudden, this happened to me multiple times. I all of a sudden, just out of the blue, think of that person. And I'd call them up and I go, hey, I was just touching base. How you doing? Stuff like that. I was wondering about that quote. And they go, oh my God, I'm getting ready to source that today. And I forgot I had your quote. And we would get that business. Mm-hmm. But when I would push, but the underlying core of all of this is our conditioning. It's that underlying conditioning. We're taught robotics. We're taught that you have to. So many people I talk to that are in sales or business owners, entrepreneurs, the mentality is I have to set aside my family. I have to set aside free time. I have to set aside anything. And I have to give this everything I've got. I'm going to close my 401k and I'm going to make this happen. I say, whoa. You're not going to make it happen that way. You're already putting yourself, your most powerful self, against the potential of you achieving that. Slow down. Stop. Stop that. What's that intention look like? My intention, on an ongoing basis is my whole business is based on attraction, not promotion. I don't run ads and things like that. And whatever happens, somehow I'm going to connect with the right people that I can help. And that alignment will happen from both sides. And I'll get to help that person experience those breakthroughs, implement the SMT method, and really, really ignite their life and achieve beyond what they thought was possible for them. But it's all in that, the core though, is in that underlying conditioning that we're conditioned through school. And one of the things with setting intentions, I'll just say this, and one of the things with setting intentions is we're taught from an early age, like me. I was in elementary school and my teacher's going, Joey, quit looking out the window. Joey, do your work. Joey, read. Joey, and we hear that throughout our whole life. And what it's conditioning us is shut down that imagination. But that's really where so much power in setting intentions comes from. When we can imagine bigger things, then we can start achieving it. But that underlying condition is going to limit how much life we get to experience the way we want to, because it'll stop it, whether it's the parenting we had and things like that. And if, an example of that, I grew up in a very low income, blue collar family outside Detroit, Michigan. There were 5 kids and my mom and dad, and I saw struggle my entire youth. I have different conditioning than what Grant Cardone's kids, children would have, in that. And so it's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. But until we deal with that underlying conditioning, we always want to find somebody to give us the pathway, the A, B's, and C steps I need to take to make it successful. And most people, like I, will kill ourselves to follow those, those steps. But nobody ever achieves the same level of success that the person teaching it did. And that's because that person found their pathway to success. And we want to jump on the tails of that and it be ours. But it's impossible to happen that way because we're all unique individuals. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think it's a lot to do with conscious thinking as opposed to just going through the motions. Conditioning is a underlining subconscious thought is our conditioning in essence. And when we're conscious about things, we can turn those into new habits, but it's remaining conscious about it. Like even with intention, we talk about setting an intention with every interaction. How many people have walked into their boss's office without an intention for the meeting? How many people have walked into a sales call, cold call, wrote an email, sat down with colleagues, sat down at lunch with a customer, sat down at lunch with a prospect with zero intentions? Just, we're going to have a conversation. We DJ, we say it all the time. We come on the show and we let the conversation create a life of its own. Yes. But the intention is, the underlying intention is, which some people might look at that and say, well, that's not really an intentional driven conversation. But the underlying conversation is, how do we make, the underlying intention is, how do we make today's shows better than yesterday's show? Yep. And how do we remain better? How do we bring information, education, and skill development to our listeners every day?
And,
exactly.
And there's really 2 steps. There's 2 steps you talked about there, Dan. I'm sorry, that was great. And it so often gets confused. So sorry to jump in here, but first off, there's the intention, right? You guys want to do better today than you did yesterday, which means you want to serve people more so today than you did yesterday. And it's exactly how I go about things. There's that, right? That's the intention. What happens is so often it gets confused. I'm going to use my pinky. It gets confused with the pathway to doing so. And so people take on the work of trying to figure out the pathway. And I know when I do that, all I do is botch the thing up. Then if I let it flow and I keep my intention, all of a sudden, as things are sparking and stuff like that, it all comes together to be that. And a guy calls me yesterday and says, come pick up your truck. And I am like freaking like a little kid at Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. We got some comments here. So Ryan, for tomorrow's episode, I just want to see some virgin mojitos.
Yes, yeah, that has to be. Yeah. You have to do that.
We'll see. It's 9 a.m., man.
Listen.
Not
alcoholic.
I know, but my intention every day is to make informed. Jeff says my intention every day is to make an informed decision. There's so much to this that there is enough room to list. Absolutely. Ryan says yes. He's absolutely right. It's the hustle culture that we get lost in. Control the controllables. And put in the work and sleep peacefully. Absolutely. Yes, James says Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is like one of my favorite philosophers of all times. I like it. Lisa says, what are some ways you guys have found to remain conscious? That's a great question. So to remain conscious, I've always set triggers. Triggers to me were the most important thing. And it was when I picked up the phone, the trigger was, what is the intention of what I'm about to do? When I would hit a new email message, what is the intention about what I'm going to do? And if you set a trigger for those types of things, I know when I first learned about triggers, it was from Brendan Burchard again. And he says, like, when I walk through the doors of an office building, he goes, I set a trigger. How do I become my best self right now and help everyone I'm about to help? When I walk into a board meeting, goes, as soon as I pull the chair out of the board meeting, my intention is how do I get everybody at a higher level of energy in this meeting than when we walked in? And triggers for me has been one of the only ways I've been able to consciously remain in control, because otherwise, I'm sorry, we just get into this groove. And if you've been doing a job for any longer than 2 weeks, you're subconsciously doing it when you think about it. I mean, maybe a month, but you're subconscious. Like when you walk into a new career, right? So DJ, when you went from in-house sales, like door-to-door sales, into logistics, you're hearing every single thing around you, and you're like, your brain is on overload. It's like, oh my God, but within 3 weeks, it all becomes noise. You don't hear a thing, and you're kind of in your own routine. And how many times have you walked in, picked up the phone, make call after call after call after call, and went, damn, my day didn't really go anywhere. Yeah. Because you're not setting those triggers of picking up. When I pick up the phone, what is the intention? What is the first thing I want to learn? What's the second thing I want to learn? What do I want to come out? Like Joey said, my intention when I walked in was to come out with an opportunity to quote. There you go. There's intention. Yeah.
One of the things I do too with every client I work with is I help them set systems of accelerating habits. And it's never the same. I don't give them a list and say, here's your habits. It's unique to the individual, which is unique in what I do. So for me, an accelerating habit for me is I believe my day starts when I put my head on the pillow. So before I go to bed at night, I've created this practice that has become a habit in building that muscle of consciousness of setting my intentions for my sleep for the next day, how I'm going to wake up, all of that stuff and everything. And as people get those, all of a sudden it starts happening kind of like the trigger you're talking about, where we have these things we're doing and stuff. And somebody said being intentional removes a lot of doubt. Absolutely it does. When we get into that, and Wallace Waddle said, if you are not consciously choosing to be rich, excellent, and healthy, then you're unconsciously choosing to be poor, mediocre, and unhealthy. And he also says that, that thinking is the hardest work in the world. But that's why most people don't do it. And I always laugh at that. But if you think about it, what kind of consciously thinking person would choose to struggle financially, would choose to give up time of the things that are their highest priorities in order to make something happen in business and things like that? It's that whole alignment with it. And that's the whole thing when I talk about the SMT, is that it's aligning the conscious and the subconscious mind. And and you're familiar with that, Dan. I mean, based on some of the common people we've worked with.
Absolutely.
That we've studied under.
Oh man!
Okay, guys, we are.
I know you got a hard stop, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. Joey, thank you so much for joining us. We got obviously the energy is great. We got to have you on again. Yep.
I'd love to. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, all they got to do is reach out to coachwithjoey.com, and you can schedule a 10-minute conversation. We can keep this going. My whole life's about serving. I love having these conversations. I'm so grateful and blessed I got to be here with you guys today.
Yes, sir. Hey, reach out to Joey if you guys want to just reach out and talk with Joey. But again, thank you everybody for joining us all of the comments. Lisa, I'm counting on you tomorrow. I know you're going to do it because you have that intention in you. Thank you to Daman and American Logistics Centurion Trucking for sponsoring and making this show possible. And again, to all of you, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Sales Chatter Live. Start your day right with us. Like and subscribe down below if you are catching this on Sales Chatter Live. Here we go. Brian McGill. Every journey begins with the first step of articulating intention and then becoming the intention. Live less out of habit, guys, and more out of intent.
Awesome.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance.